one thing good and one thing bad. Just think about it. Something that you did that was good.
It's something that you did, so not necessarily maybe something that happened to you, but like an action that you did that was good or bad.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm sorry if you haven't. We're just okay, so somebody raised their hand to give us an example of something they did that was good.
This morning I brought Liz breakfast.
So
That's really nice.
kind. Okay. Anybody else?
No one's done anything good at all in their life.
What about like an incident that involved another person? So whether it was good or bad.
Freshman year, in the middle of the night, I ate Liz's furry.
I was wondering if that's what you mean.
That's kind of bad.
Yeah.
She ate my Chipotle burrito out of our fridge, and I woke up thinking I was gonna eat it for breakfast.
I'll let you know.
She did.
Ooh, anybody else that's not as heinous a crime as eating other people's burritos? Nobody, come on, somebody in this room has to have done something bad. Or good. Bad.
Carrie, you look like you got something on your mind.
No, that's the problem. I can't think of anything. I've done both good and bad things in life, but I can't think of one particular.
Yes, Squirt?
When I was a kid, I would not want to go to sleep and play with my mom's hair, because so like she'd wake up in the morning and like all of her curlers and things like that would be out and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty bad.
Okay, so. Wait, this is your section.
You completely changed it.
Just so I think you're
Well, okay, we're just gonna do this anonymously. Like, raise your hand if, like, whatever the incidents that you thought about, did they change, like, how you thought about yourself?
In that instant, like just now, or?
No, like the incidents that you
Like when it
were
happened.
thinking about.
Oh.
like,
Wait, you want this anonymously? Do we need to close our eyes?
oh no, just raise your hands.
Raise
That's
your
what
hand.
you-
I mean, we don't need to talk about the incident. That's fine.
Okay.
You don't have
Can
to
you repeat that? I
You
was
don't
too
have to air out your
passive.
dirty
Raise your
laundry.
hand if one of the incidents changed how you thought about yourself.
So like negatively.
Okay. Raise your hand if it changed how others thought of you. And then raise your hand if it involved another person, good or bad. Okay. Well, this section's about behavior management, and it's about developing positive behaviors in campers and managing negative behavior. First, we're going to just get into groups, again, different people, and brainstorm some ways that you can help develop positive behavior in campers.
So like for instance, like if they like helped out another camper, like just be like, hey, thanks for helping out with another camper, like thanks for helping clean the cabin, that sort of thing. Or like don't focus so much on like the end result, like so say you're like playing a game or something and they'll be like, hey, thanks for helping us win and scoring all those points. Like, you know, I'll be like, thanks for being like a good team player, like thank you for, you know, being a good sport, that sort of thing. So that it's not all about the, you know, winning and whatnot. So now that we've talked about positive behavior, let's talk about negative behavior. some ways to manage campers' negative behavior.
Kind of going with the opposite of what I said for positive behavior. Explaining, well, I mean, it's the same thing. Explaining how your negative behavior will lead to like not.
See Cameron's face, I look so skeptical.
But like how like explaining how negative behavior, like if you stray away from the group, then you know we can't do things basically. So explaining how negative behavior affects everyone else.
This is why we can't have nice. A tangible example of that would be, you guys will probably all see this in the like online training videos, but one example, well, it's slightly different than when they show it in the video, but like if you don't hang up your life jacket after using it in the lake, then the next time you go put it on, it's going to be cold and wet and gross.
Thank you.
So that's kind of a more, yeah, does that make sense? So that would be an example of like, negative behavior leads to a negative result.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone likes wearing a cold, wet life jacket. It's the grossest feeling in the world.
Or like maybe like if you like if somebody's wandering off from the group and you have to keep getting them back and it's taking longer to get places, like you could say like, you know, the more times you wander off, you know, we have less time to do this next activity and it's gonna be like an awesome activity, you know, like if they're doing sand art and everybody's excited about it and then you could say like we're just gonna have less time, you know, but if you stay with the group, we'll have a whole hour to do fun stuff.
Okay. So there's kind of 3 basic steps to dealing with campers and their negative behavior. And the first one's kind of dealing with the present moment. So what are the best ways in that moment when the camper is behaving badly to kind of steer them from making bad choices? So in the moment, what can you do?
Offer an alternative. Suggest something that they could be doing differently.
So, yeah, like redirection is one of the things, yeah. So like kind of putting their focus elsewhere so that they're not so focused on, I don't know, being bad or leaving them. That's a common thing that happens. People want to just wander off.
Restless camper. But that's just like how great our campers are. Like the only behavioral issue any of us can think of is like sometimes they're like
They just-
3
but
feet
they
away
just-
instead of 1 feet away, a foot away.
They're so well behaved. Another one would be ignoring it. So like planned ignoring. So like if the camper is just being so disruptive and they're obviously just trying to get attention for their bad behavior, you can kind of ignore them in a way that's like, I see you, but I'm not going to give a lot of attention to this. Like don't like just ignore them, you know, like leave them kind of thing. Don't like still pay attention to them in case there's like danger like could be happening, but don't give too much attention to their bad behavior where you start taking attention from other campers, and then that's probably the goal of the camper is to get all the attention, and it's kind of letting them know like you're not getting any praise for being bad. So, another thing is to kind of talk to them in a calm voice and a respectful voice, because especially if like the campers know that what they're doing is bad, they don't probably expect you to approach them in like a calm manner. So that kind of, you know, it kind of throws them off guard a little bit. Another thing would be like working through the consequences of their behavior. So this is pretty much like asking questions. So let's say your camper, I don't know, is jumping off stuff. That's pretty dangerous because we're not, you know, trying to be liable for injuries. So let's say you just want to ask them a lot of questions. Like instead of saying like stop it, like why do you want to jump off of this? Why do you feel the need to run away from the group? Why is it that you must always, when we have mealtime, go hide and I can't approach you? Like things like that. Like, ask them questions, because when you ask them questions, it makes them like think about why they're actually doing it.
And also just to add on to that, in addition, like why are they doing that? Maybe have them think like why there's a rule. So like
Why do you
wandering
think?
off from the group, like why do we have a rule against wandering off from the group? Or like why do you think that
Or,
this is
like-
important to us? And then they can kind of think through like, oh, because if I wander away, then like maybe I'll get lost in the woods and like Sasquatch will eat me or whatever. Not that we encourage like fears and like mystical monsters, but like just like to get them to kind of like think through like like not just, so they don't think like, oh wow, this is just a rule that I have to follow. Like, this is a rule for X, Y, and Z reasons.
Yeah. That's basically what I was gonna say. We use that. Anyway, I was gonna say we used that with the yellow kids. You know, when they were trying to be everywhere instead of being like in a line when we went places. Which I mean, like we don't have to be in a line, but like we were saying, you know, why do you think we want a counselor behind you guys and in front of you guys all at the same time? And then like they kind of realized that, oh well, just as long as we're like in this group that, you know, we're seeing each other, then none of us will get lost and we won't have to sit down and wait for us to find the other camper instead of playing a really awesome game. So.
Also, if there's ever sort of like a negative issue with another camper, asking questions is also really helpful to find out what really went on. And so asking questions and also like listening to their answers, like not trying to like force them to say an answer that you think is appropriate or trying to get them to tell you what you think went on, but really listening. Because you're gonna see this in the training videos. They talk about how campers, since we are dealing with like some little people and some, you know, people who think that they're adults but they're not, that they have underdeveloped skills, which I don't really like, it feels weird saying. But they, like, you know how it is when you're younger. Like your social skills aren't as developed, your hypothetical thinking skills, your decision-making skills are kind of, you're like developing those skills. So a lot of times like asking questions is really helpful because since we are older, we just assume that people should act a certain way, but these are not, you know, they're little humans. They're still working on that stuff. Another great thing to do is asking the camper how they can make the situation better. So what they can do to make things better. So for instance, if there is, I don't want to use the word, if there is an issue between one camper and another camper, asking them what they can do to help make the situation better between the two campers is very helpful, I found. And also asking like how can they move on from the situation and what can they do for the rest of camp to make it better. So what can they do throughout camp to make their behavior better and make everything kind of better for their whole group. So.
I don't know if you guys want like an example of that, but it just reminded me of our yellow little boy campers love to play Uno during rest time, and one of the campers didn't know how to play Uno, but like he wanted to hang out with the rest of the campers, with the rest of the kids, and we had one camper who was really like really intense about cards for some reason. So like, no. B-Bear.
Okay.
What?
Sorry.
He's a.
Isn't Bieber
What?
Oh wait, never mind.
That's drugs.
So B-Bear, so like B-Bear didn't want the other camper Jaguar to play Uno with him. So like he would, you know, try to get him to not play, and like obviously that's not a good situation when you're having a camper be like, you know, go away or stuff like that. So we sat and we talked with B-Bear, and we were like, why do you think he wants to play with you? You know, and then we got him to realize that he wants to be your friend. He looks up to you, that kind of stuff. And then we were like, well, how do you think you can make the situation? Because like, why don't you want him to play with you? Because he doesn't know how to play. Well, how do you think you can make the situation better? By teaching him how to play. So then that happened, and then B-Bear taught Jaguar how to play, and they started to play, and it was really awesome.
So cute.
So I feel like B-Bear's really intense about everything he does because he can hula hoop with like 8 hula hoops at one time, and he's like, I don't know, maybe this tall, and he can hula hoop with that many. And he was telling me about that. He was like, yeah, I can hula hoop with 6 hula hoops. And I was like, what? No, and he goes, wanna watch me? And he grabs all these hula hoops, and it's just like maintaining eye contact with the whole time.
Yeah, I was gonna say the way he hula hoops is so much better. Just like the face that he gives you while he's
Yeah, it's
hula
so
hooping.
intense.
Like, yeah,
He stares
see
at
me?
you.
Yeah.
He stares at you like neutral expressions, like occasionally he'll like do his hair, just like keep hula hooping. Anyway. Same.
Okay, now, moving on to a specific type of negative behavior, is bullying and teasing. So what are some kind of like myths and realities that surround bullying? Yes, ma'am.
That it's always like a physically bigger person bullying like a smaller, younger person.
You some people think that you have to like say or do something for it to be considered bullying, but exclusion is a form of bullying as well.
Anything else? Okay, well, obviously bullying is not acceptable. It's not healthy behavior. It can be really unhealthy and damaging to campers, and it can kind of thwart our goal of trying to create a peer group for them. So bullying is not, tolerated at camp or anywhere between counselors or campers, between counselors and counselors, counselors and campers, the whole thing. So that's kind of a big part of rule number 3, no put downs. So, what are some ways that you guys think you can prevent bullying? Because like Squirt said, bullying isn't just like hitting and like stealing people's lunch money. Like, bullying can be kind of sneaky, and a lot of times kids bully to like be socially like accepted because they want to be like cool and they want to seem like, that kid. I don't know what it is, but yeah. So a lot of times bullying isn't about like necessarily the other person, it's more about the bully themselves. So how do you think that we can prevent bullying as counselors so to make sure that everyone at camp is enjoying themselves and having a great time?
Checking with the campers, because some of them like they wouldn't be open about it, and it's just a great way to figure out what's happening, rather than just let it like happen behind the scene kind of.
Chris, why are you here? Sorry. This is Erin. She was a counselor last summer.
I'm an hour away. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Kind of going off of that, like paying attention to everyone and not just giving attention to people that are the loudest and the most outgoing and the most disruptive, but also sort of like checking in with maybe the quieter and more withdrawn members.
Going off of that also would be sort of celebrating some of like I don't want to say like the weird things, but you know how some kids like to do things that are different, like so celebrating those things. So like
Eccentricities.
yeah, so like because if you're singling them out for doing something different, then like your campers will too. So.
Anybody else? Another good way to help prevent bullying is to help the campers make connections with each other. So like making sure that your campers are like hanging out with one another and like being nice and doing activities together. So making sure that there's like not all like, I don't know, I was a girl counselor, and so like girls tend to be cliquey naturally, and so it was important that we made sure that everybody was hanging out with everybody, and it wasn't just like these 5 girls off to the side and then one girl in the corner by herself. So that helps a lot with bullying, because then once they start hanging out, they realize like, oh, I do think so and so, like, you know what I mean? Also maybe helping campers with insecurities. So like if you're playing a game or something and there's always like one camper who's always just like leading the game or like being the best, like maybe picking different team captains and things like that, I know were helpful for us, and just having kind of different things. And like maybe having a different person being in charge of like cleanup and things like that is really helpful, just giving campers confidence and things of that nature. And also just kind of, like we talked about a little bit before, like the planned ignoring. So if you notice that one camper is just being a bit more disruptive than the others, kind of like ignoring them, but not too much. Like maybe once you like have kind of ignored their bad behavior, like I'm not gonna pay attention, asking them like a follow-up is really good, following up with them to see like why they were behaving that way and like what's going on. Because sometimes it's deeper than what it might be, and other times it's just like maybe they just want a little more attention, and so trying to reinforce that negative attention into a positive direction is also helpful.
Just to clarify that that's like for if like a camper's being disruptive, like individually. Like
Yeah.
if a camper's like bullying, like
Yeah.
just being mean to another camper, like don't just ignore it and hope
Just
that
like,
they'll be like, oh, they just want attention. I'm just gonna, the other one will be okay.
Yeah.
But I think about preventing bullying, it's just like there are lots of different activities you can do like within your cabin to make it like an open space. And I don't know if the teen girls did this, and I don't know if we did this at camp at all, but last year during training we did something called Hopes and Fears in a Hat. Did you guys do that?
Yeah.
Okay. No.
I said yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. I took a minute.
Yes, and we've done with training, and apparently with teen girls, that now they remember, is we give everyone like 2 pieces of paper, and you write your hope on one piece and your fear on another piece of paper, and you put them in a hat, and you like make something, like everyone goes around and reads them. There are different hats, by the way, so like you're
Guessing which one's a hope.
But anyway, and so then it kind of, you read things and you're like, oh, we're all like actually coming from the same place, and it gives, I think, would probably be helpful in a situation like this.
I think also one sort of subtle thing is like being cognizant of your position as like an authority position and someone like older, and being careful to not accidentally like mimic patterns of bullying, because I think it can be easy, like you think you're just poking fun at someone, like, oh, come on, like, catch up, you slowpoke or something, but then like just being careful of like that line between being like fun and but like, you know, and not like putting those words into like campers' mouths if they were to like say something like that amongst themselves, if that makes sense.
Yes. That makes sense. These are all really great points that you guys have hit on about how we can prevent bullying, and some of these are even ways that we can kind of intervene when there is bullying. Yeah. So it is almost 4 o'clock, and I don't want to keep you guys for about 3 minutes. But if anyone can just think of some quick ways that we can intervene, like helpful ways that you can intervene when bullying does happen. Yes, Pete?
Not to call them out, but to like take them out on the side, make sure it's not in front of like other people.
If it's like, you can tell it's like starting to happen, but it hasn't like escalated fully, you could just kind of like step in and be like, hey, that's my buddy, and like kind of like, he protects her, the underdog. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
kind of.
Because that's kind of our goal, is we kind of want to get before, we kind of want to crush it before it happens, because it's it's something that's pretty obvious that you can see is coming. Because like I don't think like none of our campers are buying it. I don't want to jinx us. Like, you know, they're not going around punching each other, like trying to fight each other. It's just like the small stuff, like not wanting to play cards, or like not wanting somebody to be in the game because like they're not as athletic or something like that. It's like small things like that that can escalate. So we kind of just want to nip those things in the bud.